Welcome to Opt In with April Jasper. Relevant conversations about topics important to eye care providers today.
Before neural lenses, I always had eye strain,
eye dryness,
eye fatigue,
moderate to severe headaches.
I had to take prescription medication.
It was to the point where my kids, they'd want me to sit down and color or read them books, and I couldn't do nothing.
When I got my neural lenses, my headache went away.
I wasn't taking Tylenol anymore.
Can't explain it, but it worked.
I would pay double for my neural lenses because I can't go a day without them.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. You know, it's a crazy summer, Marianne, here in Florida. And for those of the listeners that know this, not everybody does, I don't have a great love for iguanas. And in Florida, we seem to have an issue with them. If you come to vacation, you'll see if you go south, really south of Orlando, that's when they start to be an issue. But what's funny about them is that my kids know that I don't like them. And yet Aiden decided it was appropriate to show me a Facebook post that somebody had posted from Fort Lauderdale. Maybe you saw it, Marianne. And this post was a woman that went in to hit the restroom. And when she went in, there was honestly, the body of this thing it looked like at least 18 inches, this iguana. The tail was another 18 inches in her toilet, all wrapped around. So she closed the door and waited until the next day, called someone to come get it. And of course, her post shows it in the toilet, shows the guy standing outside holding it. And then he goes on to tell everybody that there seems to be an infiltration of iguanas in the sewer system. So you can imagine that I am not okay right now. But
I love it.
That's the kind of summer we're having. So what's it like in Colorado?
Well, first of all, Colorado is experiencing a crazy heat wave. So what that does mean for us on the positive side is there's no mosquitoes and there's no bugs, and we get a nice cool breeze in the afternoon. So that's the best part here. But I want to say something. If we're going to talk about the news for a second, can we go back like a day or two and just acknowledge your recognition as one of Newsweek's America's Best Optometrists? I mean, you should really be proud of that, April. That's a huge undertaking. It's a lot of work that's come from a lifetime, a career. It's not something you did yesterday or something you did last week. This is 20 years in the making. So really should kind of like take a bow for that. That's pretty impressive if we're going to talk news.
Wow. You are so kind, Marianne. And it is humbling. I love being able to see the list and kind of see what we're all doing. And I'm very proud of all of us on there, but it kind of takes me back to when you and I first met. So we've been friends for a very long time, and friends because we kind of had to deal with some of the same challenges in life at the same time.
Yes. Yeah.
But I remember being in study groups with you and kind of walking through where we were in our practice, where we were in our life. And so I have admired you and really looked up to you for all these years. And I was so excited that you agreed to be on our podcast because I just want to bring people information. You've got lots of good information and I'm going to introduce you a little better in just a second, but also just what you are is, I think, what I am, or I hope I am. And that is just real and authentic, and want people to know the problems, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and learn from my mistakes. So thank you for being here.
Definitely that last part. I hope someone can learn from the mistakes.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know Marianne, Dr. Marianne Murphy not only is my friend, but she is an amazing optometrist in Colorado. She has a practice with 5 optometrists and 2 ophthalmologists, the last I heard, and you'll tell us a little bit more about that in a minute, Marianne. But she's also on the board of VSP, and she'll tell you a little bit about how that's been. And so I think that what Marianne is bringing to us today is kind of knowledge about how to succeed in practice, but also to help. I wanted her to help all of you that are listening to understand more about what it's like on her side of being a part of vision plans and how they can be beneficial to us. So we're going to jump into a lot of different areas today. But Marianne, as we get started, tell us a little bit more about you, a little more detail than maybe what I have already said.
Yeah, I think, if I was introducing myself, and I think, April, you might have agreed with this, 20 years ago, I definitely would have started with, where I went to school, what my accomplishments were, what awards I've won, all those kinds of things. But I think now where we are in our lives, the things that I consider really important about me are that, I've raised 2 teenagers. I've gotten this far. I've got one going off to college. I've got my daughter got her driver's license last week, and I'm still standing. So that is my biggest accomplishment in life. I was able to do part of that as a single mother, and I'm just proud of the mom that I've been able to be to my kids. And some of that has come from the practice that I've created, like you did with David, which was a place that I could foster being a mom and being a family person and having some flexibility around private practice, but then also creating an environment of people that I've been around in the industry where, if you and I showed up to a meeting and either of us had our kids, it was like not even a blip in the conversation, except to stop and talk to the kids and find out, what they're doing. But it was just a very natural part of who we are. So I'm most proud of that accomplishment, having created a space for myself and for women. So like you mentioned, 5 optometrists, we all work essentially part-time, right? 3 days typically seeing patients, then the other 2 days building the marketing, clinical admin, patient flow, enhancing our customer experience, working on developing our staff, but created this environment that our patients have come to foster too, to say, well, you're going to see Dr. Murphy on Monday, but on Friday, she's not here. So you're going to follow up with Dr. Perez, and then being totally comfortable with, well, I'm good. I hope she's out fishing, and I hope Dr. Perez comes in off the soccer field. And I know you guys are going to take good notes. So that's the type of practice that I created. And I know that you and David have done the same thing in terms of just, if your kids are in there, they're part of the conversation, and people come to the business to help support our role in the community. So, and then with that, like you talked about, customer experience, employee experience, really trying to be top notch and making sure that we're incorporating that holistic care, but also the technology component, because you can have all those things, but if aesthetically it doesn't look pretty, it's going to be tough to succeed. Colorado's a pretty high-tech environment. We're home to Lockheed, to Oracle, to Google offices. So, you don't get to come in and have the orange shag carpet and old projectors.
Exactly. And what, you bring up good memories. I remember that part of our history too is the fact that we did do a lot of work with technology together. And we were the first to try a lot of different stuff. And, I think kind of my days of being the first to try stuff is over. I like innovation, but I kind of like it to come to me ready to go now. But as I look back, I honestly don't see that as one of the challenges I had in practice. There's others, but I want you to kind of walk through. You mentioned the fact that, hey, we've raised kids in our practice, and you're right. My kids think of my state association, our state association, they think of it as their second family. And, it's just part of the life they've grown up in, and they love optometry and they love patients. But we've had our own challenges. So what are some of the biggest challenges that you would say you've had in practice, and how have you overcome them?
Yeah, I think they're the same things that you hear when you talk to not just every provider, but when you talk to every industry consultant, right? You're not going to have a conversation that doesn't come up around staff. And I think for me, I used to think of it as just staff, but now I really think of it as just people, right? People are my biggest challenge. People are also my largest asset and what I love about our practice, but people are tough, and that people can be staff. And I find sometimes, aside from just, Dr. Murphy, can I wear these green socks with the black scrubs? Is that what, those kinds of conversations where you're like, why am I thinking about this? But also, there's the lack of predictability around people, and, someone's getting a divorce, someone's dog dies, and those are just challenging things that we have to deal with every day. But along the lines of that, the people problem is the patient problem, right? This patient's 20 minutes late. This patient's 20 minutes early. How do we manage that? This patient wants to wear a mask. This patient thinks masks are a joke. It's the lack of predictability and just the people component. But, having said that, while it's undoubtedly my biggest challenge, I think you would agree, it's like the best assets of our practice is just not knowing what's going to walk in the door on any day.
I know. I find it exciting. I'm with you. I think it's, you look at your last 3 days and it's wild. I mean, Monday we had a little one come in. I mean, here we are. This is what we do. I had a 4-year-old come in that was a 2-diopter myope and needs glasses. And at the same time, a 96-year-old came in right after that, who was blind in one eye from glaucoma because he hadn't had an eye exam in 20 years. So this is the day that we have, and we expect our staff to be able to manage that as well as we do. And I'm just so proud of them when they do. But at the same
Yeah.
time, you're right. The other comments you get from them sometimes are just wild and off the wall. And you have to just kind of sit back and go, okay, where's this coming from?
Yeah, it's that to me also, like the lack of predictability that I think you and I have come to appreciate and just expect is still really challenging for them. And you've got young people that are in this profession. We love to hire staff that is kind of on their way to something bigger and better, right? People who are in school to be a physician's assistant or a nurse practitioner, or we've got several kind of pre-optometry students. So I'll take someone who's willing to work really hard, even if I know I'm only going to have them for a year, versus someone who says, look, I'm looking for a job to stay here for 20 years. I probably won't be better day 2 than I was day 1, nor better day 10 than I was. It's just, and I'll take a 1-year employee any day. But, that lack of predictability for us has become a challenge, especially in this COVID environment where we're really still trying to control patient flow here in Colorado. And, we had a brainstorming session with our staff a while back to say, when you call in to schedule an appointment for your car, first of all, it's really difficult to ask how much it's going to cost because you don't know what the problem is. Someone's trying to describe the problem, making all kinds of, it's making this sound and that sound, and it won't do this. And, you kind of want to do that when you schedule an eye appointment.
Right.
Like, how bad are your eyes? Are you blind? How old are you? Can you see? Can you not see? But we don't do that, right? We just say, come on in and we'll figure it out. And we had a day very similar to you. We had a 4 diopter myope she had been wearing glasses, but was ready to go into myopia control. Family with a lot of questions that takes a lot of time. Yeah. And then turned around right after that, had a 50-year-old man with an NAION, acute onset. And we started going over the differentials, syphilis comes up, things like that come up, other arteritis. And so wants to have a conversation about, could this be a part of, some of his extramarital activities? It's like, this is the conversation we're having in an exam room when outside, I have a staff member going, I think I have to go put my dog down.
Right.
Just, and I don't know if there's really enough training, right, that gets around that. It's just part of chaos management that I think we take as a mom, and we take as a parent, and we take as a practice owner, and we take as an industry, someone who's involved in industry, and it's just how you react to it. So it's fun. It's the most challenging, but the most fun.
And you know what? I don't think I was the most chill at the beginning. I definitely felt it inside. It would mess with me, but I realized quickly, and I think that's the other powerful part of having friends that are not the same as me, but going through some of the same things that I'm going through. But I realized quickly that I needed to just step back. I mean, nobody's going to die tomorrow, hopefully. There have been times we've had situations that are life-threatening. But if I can just step back, slow down, and help my team to breathe and help them, I mean, think of what a difference we can make in their lives. And that's why I think, like you said, I turned that challenge, just like you have, into what can I do for these people that are working for me right now that may not be working for me forever, to make a difference in their life for the better. And it makes me think differently about them and about the challenges that come to the table. All right.
It's an important conversation to have. I love it.
I know. All right. My next question, I'm excited about this one. So you kind of told me about challenges. Let's get what's your favorite thing about practice ownership? And then I want to roll into your role with VSP.
Sure. I think they kind of go together. And I think you would echo some of this. I know we've talked about it in the past. I've known, early on in my career that I was just not going to be someone who could just be in an exam room all day. Whether it's a bit of ADHD or just, always wondering, the curiosity about what else is out there in the market. What I love about practice ownership is the flexibility that it gives me, whether I'm coaching my son's soccer team or helping my daughter's tennis team or volunteering at church or whatever it is. I love that flexibility. And I think having private practice has allowed me to have that flexibility and, frankly, create it for the other women and the employees in my practice. But that was a part of what got me involved in industry things. And early on, like you mentioned, I think you and I both had challenges where I would sit down looking for kind of a peer-to-peer group and find myself in a variety of things, a group of 20-year-olds that were starting practices at the time that I was 30, which I felt like we don't have a lot in common, or a group of 70-year-olds who had, multi-million dollar practices talking about what boat they're going to buy. And I'm like, I can bear, I'm just hoping the phone rings. And so it was seeking up industry opportunities to be with like-minded people, similar people, whether it was similar interests, similar geography, whatever it was. And so for both you and I, at one point that led us to Vision Source. Through Vision Source, I had the opportunity to get involved with Optometry Giving Sight, that charitable component of eye care. I love that so many of our industry partners have that. I know you're involved with that with the Academy. Obviously, the American Optometric Association has their arm, Lux has their arm, VSP has their arm. So I loved being a part of that kind of ecosystem of optometry, and it's been an important component of our practice here in Colorado. But through Optometry Giving Sight, had the opportunity to serve on several kind of, what people would call mission trips or sustainability trips. And then for me, that was an opportunity to get to know some of the folks at VSP as they were supporting a lot of that work. Getting to know the folks in that organization, worked with them, like you mentioned, through some of the consulting on the software development side, seeing how there was a real interest to actually make optometry better, right? Make optometry more efficient. What tools can we create? And that for me was kind of a foray into working with them a little bit closer.
So tell us what your position is now with VSP. And I think the other place I'd like to take it, if you would, is I don't know that everyone out there, I don't think that many optometrists understand how complex and how much work you do, how complex the process is, how much work you do to try to make certain that everything that's done is as it should be for patients and doctors.
Yeah, thank you for acknowledging that, April, because like a lot of things we do, right? But the hat you wear as a parent is different than the hat that you wear as a business owner, and is different than you wear, as a friend, and is different than you wear as a wife. And sometimes juggling all those hats can be really challenging. And like you mentioned earlier, sometimes the ability now, I think that we've gained as we've gotten older, is the ability to kind of sit back, put all your hats on backwards, not take yourself so seriously, and say, how is this really going to affect us in 5 years? If I let her go out with her friends tonight and stay out till 10:30 instead of 10, is she not going to get into the college of her dreams? I'm thinking about my kids, but, and the same thing, whether, when you take it to VSP, is whether someone gets a $20 copay or a $21 copay in the end going to make a difference. And sometimes it does, right? The annuity of that over time can make a difference. So, so the role that I have with VSP now is different than a lot of other industry roles that I've held. And I think most of us come from, being KOLs, being on advisory boards, I love that industry has sought optometrists to help direct where their business goes, right? What products do we need to have? I know that you're working on this with the Academy on the whole staff training component, right? Like they actually listen to doctors and say, what do you want for staff training? Not, we think we're sitting back here and we know what you guys need, but really ask doctors. And so I think that's what KOLs do, and that's what advisory boards do. This role with VSP is very different. So VSP, by its bylaws, states that its actual corporate directors, the majority of them have to be optometrists. So these are we are the folks that effectively direct where the business goes. I mean, the organization has a responsibility to follow the direction of the board of directors. We are part of setting the strategy for the organization. We're part of the key decision making. Operationally, they take care of everything, but the board of directors really guides the business, and that comes with a ton of responsibility. But it's a responsibility of that hat being, we have to make sure VSP as a business succeeds. But then this other hat that always happens underneath, what I call my little party hat, which is I'm still an optometrist over here, and the decisions I make over here have to make my business sustainable. And I think about you and other people in the industry I know who have children who like aspire to be optometrists or want to be in the industry. I'm not just thinking about me, right? You and I can make decisions that will keep us comfortable for the next 10 years till we retire. I'm thinking about, our kids and the profession, truly the legacy of the profession down the road. So the day-to-day decisions we make on the board of directors, whether it's, do we want to purchase an organization like VisionWorks to bring into the fold of VSP? Do we want to merge with another frame designer? Do we want to buy another software company? All of those decisions play into where is optometry going to be in the future?
And I love that you're there, because I love knowing that a group of doctors like yourself are helping to guide that future. So I do feel like there are a lot of misunderstandings or misconceptions that doctors have about VSP and even other vision plans. But since you're in a position that you could talk a little bit about VSP specifically, what would you say, Marianne, is maybe one or two of the most misunderstood items or things, or what is a misconception that doctors have about vision plans or VSP specifically?
Sure. Thank you for allowing me to answer that question. I'd say the biggest misconception, and I don't know where it necessarily comes from. Obviously we have loudspeakers in the industry. We have people who are relatively quiet. We have people who are just kind of minding their own business. But the biggest one comes that you can't make money with a vision plan, right? You can't have a sustainable business only serving clients that have vision plans. I think you and I could both be a testament to that. A huge portion of my population and my billing is medical, but I will be the first to admit it is the vision plan that draws them in the door. If I have someone with glaucoma who I've seen for 10 years, like for instance, I'm not a provider for Davis. It's more of an East Coast plan. It's not something that we've worked with. So if someone comes in who's had glaucoma for 10 years, I've seen them for 10 years. I've billed their medical every year. I don't see them 1 year. I run into them at the grocery store and they say, well, I have Davis now. I said, I haven't billed your vision plan for 10 years. And because you changed vision plans, you didn't come see me. And, shame on me for not educating my patient that, this is a medical service that's provided through your medical insurance. But it was an awakening that it is that vision plan ticket, right? That drives them to me. So, so the question is, do you have to divert? It's not like this bait and switch. I don't make money on them simply because they're medical and driven in by vision, but you can make money with a vision plan. And I think there are, great lecturers out there, great industry mentors that we have that lecture on it all the time, And what's interesting is I look at someone like Jim Winnick. I don't know how well you know Jim, but Jim was a professor at UC Berkeley. He was previously on the board of directors at VSP, but VSP sponsors Jim to go out and say, here's how you can be more profitable with VSP. Right. And I love that, and I know the Spears will do that. They'll get their, they have their peers that are out there. Here's how to make more money with IMED. It's out there. So I think that's a huge misconception. And then I think the second one, and these kind of go hand in hand, there's like 2 and 3 together. I would say that, there's this perception that VSP, could care less if private practice goes away, and would be fine servicing everyone through a commercial avenue. And then kind of along with that is that, VSP wants to take over medical care. You see that with, now we have, the essential medical eye care, which most people know as primary eye care before. And people are like, let's keep VSP out of that business. And it's really not what the intention of that was, and I think there's no doubt that there's a large network of providers in California. And it's such a different body when we have to think about, I have to sit in Colorado like you do in Florida. We have access to all the medical plans. We can do anything we want medical. Our California peers don't have that. And so when patients come in and they want those medical services, optometrists either have to charge them cash or turn them away. And so VSP was looking for a way to keep those patients in optometric offices. And then I don't know how prevalent Kaiser is where you are, but it's growing in popularity here. And so when my patients come in and have Kaiser, private practice doctors are not on the Kaiser network. And so previously I would have to either turn them away or, require cash payment. And so it's just this nice kind of bridge that allows us to keep some of those patients in there, and keep them coming to our office knowing we're that one-stop shop for all their eye care, where we can at least be the initial place that they present when they have a red eye. And if they, if it's an iritis, it's going to require a month of follow-up, maybe we get them over to Kaiser. But it's, VSP is not in the business of taking over medical care, interfering with medical care, or in any way, shape, or form is, has the motivation to be the demise of private practice.
I love that you brought those up. So number one, yes, I definitely agree that we can be profitable with vision plans. And I love finding all the ways, and your teams actually are really good at coming into the office and showing us on our practice report where we're missing out. So I think that's a big tip, honestly, for anyone who's listening that is a provider, is to have those business development folks come in and help you see where you're missing out so they can point you in the right direction. But our revenue per patient is pretty darn high with people on vision plans, specifically VSP. And back to the other point you made, I think that many times in the old days, old meaning 25 years ago when I first started down this path, people would say, if we don't like it, then we should talk, or we should just not talk about it. And I think that there's something missing in that. You have to learn how to work with it, because the last number I saw is that 96% of people in the United States have some sort of vision coverage. Is that number about what you are aware of too, Marianne?
I'm not, my statistics are not quite that high. But it's a lot. It's the exceeding majority, and as you and I know, the majority of those typically covered by either IMED or VSP, and then there's other small players. But and I mean, for you as an employer and someone who has insurance, if you have Blue Cross Blue Shield, you're not going to go to someone who's not on their network. Right? You just probably won't. It's a ticket. It's a benefit that you pay for, that you want to make sure you're maximizing value for. So I appreciate you bringing up the global business development managers, because that's been a strategy that VSP spearheaded several years ago. And I think you're going to continue to see tremendous advancements in that program. One of the things we heard from our ambassador network, which is kind of like our KOL and advisory network, we have doctors in each state that we reach out to about how VSP can do better. And people would say, I hate when my Marchand rep comes in and I ask them about Unity and they don't know anything about it, and I ask my Unity rep about what's the partnership with Keyring and they don't know, right? Then when we had Unity Biosig, it was like, what's Premier? They don't know. And it was this very disjointed, you have 12 people from VSP coming in and nobody knows what the right and left hand is doing. So they created that global business development manager to really tie all of that together, to streamline the number of people that come into your offices, but really, like you mentioned, April, to be a resource to you to say, here's how you do that. And I think, we're unique in the industry where the doctors have a voice through the ambassador program and through the board of directors, but also that direct relationship with the practitioners through that business development manager. So thanks for leaning on them, because they love doing that work. If they can make you an extra $2 to $5 per patient, as we all know, that adds up real quick.
Oh, absolutely. Well, that leads me to another question. And this one is a little deeper, but maybe not. So my next question is, and I want you to think of it as wear both hats, your VSP hat and your Dr. Marianne Murphy hat. And that is, what do you see is the future for optometry? I guess let's go 5 years down the road. You mentioned the fact that, yes, my daughter wants to go into optometry school. Probably a lot of us out there have children that do. What should she be thinking about as the future? And then also take that to the direction of, what does it look like and where can we make an impact that could be make it even better than what it would be otherwise?
Yeah, I think I kind of wish you would have asked me this question yesterday, because, stuff comes up every day that like, oh my gosh, that completely pivots this. But to me, it's part of what you and I have said with regular practice. I try not to take myself too seriously. I try not to get so far down one path that I'm unable to pivot. And I think you and I have both also demonstrated that sometimes you have to make big decisions that really change things and change what your trajectory might look like. And I think about your role with Vision Source, where, you're on this ladder going straight up and you're like, I'm going to take a different ladder. I'm going to take a different step and I'm going to do things differently. And I think as optometrists, our best path going forward is to be willing to pivot and be agile really in this environment. So where we're going, my practice, your practice, the industry, 5 years now to me is 5 months, right? Because things in the industry are happening so fast that to me, to even think I could predict a year from now, I've given up kind of fooling myself. But the simple answer is, I don't know. What I worry most about are the kind of the non-traditional disruptors. So I don't know if you saw in the news yesterday, but like Amazon purchased Medical One, right? So One Medical is a group of primary practice. It's a provider network. They have locations all across the country where they can provide concierge service. They build locations where employers are. They have a subscription model. It is kind of the Amazon of healthcare. And Amazon purchased One Medical yesterday. So, what would it take for them to drop eye care into those places? And is that an okay thing, right? I mean, do we want to create a place for our new graduates to practice in an environment where people are truly seeking care? And it's probably the same conversation you have with yourself. Like, am I a competitor for lens crafters? Am I a competitor for Pearl Vision? At a high level, we're all competitors. I don't intend to provide exams ever on a Sunday afternoon. And if that's something that one of my patients wants, I'm probably not the provider for them. So realizing that we're in a place where, you can't be all things to all people, but at the same time, creating and fostering a place where the people who want the types of services that you and I offer can continue to get them, I think is really important. But also being in a brain space where we say, there's room for all of us. There is room for all of us, right? And I think, looking back when VSP made the purchase of VisionWorks years ago, there was, and when they partnered with Costco a decade ago, there was this whole, arms up in the air, a private practice is going to go away. They're going to drive everyone to VisionWorks. It hasn't been a blip in the business of private practice, right? But VSP knows they have a segment of members that want commercial opportunities. And so rather than have them go to the competitor, why not have a competitor in-house? And just like for you, there's someone who wants Saturday hours. Maybe they can get that at your office. Maybe they have to go to a different partner. And so for me, what's happening is you and I just need to continue to do what we do really well. Yep. Keep our focus on the patient. Some of that goes into incorporating holistic care, which we can talk about a little bit because I know that's important to you too. But then from an industry perspective, really being willing to play together. There's a place for IMED, there's a place for VSP, there's a place for the AOA, there's a place for the Academy. It's not just this, you don't have to choose teams. There's a place for Vision Source, there's a place for HEA and PECA. And I think the better that we all play together, we'll see tremendous, and we can create tremendous success for optometry.
That's what I see you as too, Marianne, is I see you as someone who is a connector. I feel like that's a strength you have, and that's something that I want for all of us to do better. I love that part of what you said. I don't look at the future as being negative. I'm excited about it. If I wasn't, I would never let my daughter go down this path.
Right.
And so I feel like, the other lesson I've learned over time, not only is to relax and take it easy and slow down a little bit, but also to realize that when we do what we do best and we do it well, we give our patients a million reasons to continue to come back to us. And so I don't worry about the fact that there are going to be disruptors. And I love being able to be on the front lines of hearing about it and learning about it so we can help others to not be so concerned about it. But I think the lesson you're teaching us and what you're kind of saying is just do what you do well and do more of it and continue to help other people to do that too. And that's what I love about you having so many doctors in your practice as well. All right.
Well, it's something I've learned, I think, from you too, April. I'll just take 1 second to expand on that is do what you do well, but also ask yourself, your practice, your business, what can I do better? What do my patients need? And then within that, right, set your boundaries. If all my patients tell me that I want a Saturday exam, I have to sit and be real with myself and say, am I going to do Saturdays or not? Right. And I think you and I have learned that, how much time are we taking off for conferences? How much time are we devoting to continuing education? Yes. Where's the line? What's important? What's the priority? And being able to do that and listen to your peers. I love having peers come in my office and they're like, why is your OCT over there? Like, that's completely out of the way of how patient flow works. I'm like, well, that's how it's always been. We seem to be doing just fine with it, but to actually hear what people say about what we could be doing better.
Right. Very good. Oh, this is so good. All right. So Marianne, I want to give you the last words. So what do you see as a challenge or an opportunity? I'll put it both ways because I think most challenges are also opportunities. And in optometry, and maybe even take it to VSP. And what is something that VSP recognizes that needs to be addressed, and how are you addressing it today?
Yeah, I'll take that and say two things. And again, it's pretty simple to me because I think it applies to both VSP, the industry, and then individually at my practice. And there are two things that I think are heavy on my heart right now. One is very simply just inflation. Right. And dealing with the increased costs, the employment pressures, the world pressures, what we're doing in our practice, what I think VSP is doing. And then secondarily is just diversity and inclusion within our profession. So I'll start with inflation. And that is, it's real. We're feeling it. Our costs are going up every day. I'm sure you and David every day get a letter in the mail. This contact lens vendor is increasing costs. This contact lens vendor is increasing their fees for lenses, right? And I feel like our hands are tied. I can't tell my VSP patient when they come in, I know your copay says it's $10, but I really need to charge you $11 today because, gloves are more expensive and we've got to all wear masks. We don't have that flexibility. So how are we managing that? We can't, I could raise my fees on everything and it would affect some of my income, but not the majority of it because it is controlled by vision plans and frankly, even medical insurance. So figuring out ways to make that work. So those are real challenges. On a practice level, I would tell you, for me with employees, it's retention bonuses and training bonuses versus hiring bonuses, trying to control costs by not having so much turnover. Little things like that, just trying to keep people happy. At a VSP level, it boils down to the root of, at some point, can we pay providers more? It's a pretty simple equation when you sit and think of it. If, insurance A pays X and insurance B pays X minus $20, why would insurance A, why would someone who pays X raise the fees? You're not going to be able to be competitive in the market. And the question is it sustainable? If we go into this huge recession next year, and now you've increased reimbursement by $10, you cannot be competitive on the member side of the market. So VSP is looking for creative ways to help, partner with those doctors that want to partner with them. Like you mentioned with the global business development managers. If you're willing to work with more Unity, if you're willing to work with more Marchand, we have other ways to show that we're kind of on the same team and we're going to look to support you. And you see that happening with the Premier Platinum partnerships. And they did that through COVID as well. So just try to be creative. And then the second part of that that I mentioned, I think that weighs on my heart is the diversity part. Diversity, I think, on a practice level is tough because the very nature of the type of employees that we have tend to be kind of younger women, right? Who are looking for administrative roles, medical health roles, those types of things, opticianry, which has kind of that fashion sense to it. So how do you create diversity there, right? Is diversity there gender diversity? Is it ethnic diversity? If you live in an area that's all Latina, it's probably going to be difficult to find an African-American employee or a Caucasian employee, and you want to serve your population. So I think on a practice level, that continues to be really difficult, but I look for diversity in terms of just walks of life, how they're educated, types of languages they speak, but just being aware of it. The bigger challenge, I think, is our profession, right? I mean, what can we do? Because there's these healthcare deserts, right? People aren't practicing on the Indian reservations in New Mexico. People are having trouble going to rural Nebraska. People are having trouble going to inner city New York. If we had people that came from those areas that we could grow in optometry to go back to those areas to serve those patients that have such a drastic need, I think we could do better as a profession. And so how do you get those people interested in optometry? And I know you have been a huge proponent of just mentorships and, being always having an open ear when you have, whether it's an optometry student or a pre-optometry student who says, hey, can I just bend your ear for a second? Can I grab lunch with you? Can I, whatever it is. I think as a profession, if we can be more open to that and kind of more open arms with our patients to say, would you consider serving in a role like this for our community? Anything that we can do to enhance that diversity enhances just the richness of our profession.
Absolutely. I think that at the FOA convention this summer, it came up and it was interesting because I told a whole group of doctors in my class, I really feel like I haven't done as much as I could in helping newer, younger patients even. It used to be patients would come in and we would talk to them about, oh, this is exciting. You should be an optometrist too. I'm not sure that I've been as open about that. And I think that really was something that we did more in the past. So I think starting even in with our patients and saying how awesome it is. And even our teams, our staff, there used to be a lot of doctors' offices where our staff would then go to optometry school. So I have definitely made a commitment to do a better job in really talking about how amazing it is. And it's not fair that I don't share it because I totally believe it.
It's funny because I've looked for ways, and I agree with you. I don't know if it's as we've gotten to a point in our career where we're so focused on what our kids are choosing for their careers, or we feel so settled into where we are that we don't sell our profession, or frankly, we're just unsure and timid ourselves. But I've looked for ways in my practice where I can introduce it. And to me, the place that it feels most natural, and this is going to sound probably weird to you, but I've really incorporated a lot of just holistic health into my spiel right at the end of the exam, like how important sleep is, how important what you put in your body is to your overall eye health, how important your supplements are. And when I talk about sleep and I talk about stress, I will simply sit back and say, it's one of the things I love about my profession. It's why all of us work part-time. It's because we have this flexibility, because we create this lifestyle. And for me, it's an opportunity to have both conversations, right? Create a life that allows you to do this. And oh, by the way, optometry is one of those ways, because I just couldn't figure out, like, how do I do this without making it sound like a plug? Like, I'm not looking for employees, frankly. If all my patients became optometrists, we could never sustain it. But it just felt like a good place to me, which is why, like, you always have patients who say, like, you seem so happy, Dr. Jasper. And you say, gosh, this profession is awesome. And I've made a commitment to get good sleep.
Exactly.
So it works for us. Yeah.
I love that. And yes, you're right. I do believe in the fact that what we do and what we eat and who we are definitely affects all of our outcomes. So, wow, this has been so much fun. And selfishly, Marianne, I wanted to do this just so I could spend more time with you. So thank you so much.
I really treasure our friendship. I think it's something that, when we talk about mentors, seeking those people in the industry that, like you said, that we can just be genuine with, and not always calling when you need a favor, just calling when you want to just say, hey, how's David? How are the kids? How's Florida? Tell me about the iguana in your toilet. I love that we can have those conversations. So thanks for creating an atmosphere that makes everyone around you feel so welcome and included.
And thank you for all you do for us and all the places that you serve, including on the VSP board. We appreciate you, Marianne.
Thanks, April.
Thank you to all our listeners. We appreciate you being here with us and listening. And I appreciate the time you spend listening in the car, watching on YouTube, and definitely check out the courses that we have that kind of walk through some of what Marianne and I talked about today, how to profit with vision plans, and really how to create a culture in your practice that is something makes a practice you want to be at. We appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Your eyes and your vision are under attack. Damaging blue light from the sun, your phone, your computer, your tablet, even light bulbs and car headlights is constantly bombarding you. The good news is our eyes actually already have a line of defense to counter the effects of blue light. This defense is made up of 3 pigments called carotenoids. MacuHealth with Micromicelle, the only supplement with the exclusive patent on all 3 macular carotenoids and Micromicelle technology.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Opt In with Dr. April Jasper.